Hi guys, this is the Unit 2 lecture for Business and Professional Writing, and I'm going to go over chapters 10 and 11 with you. I'm trying to talk really loud because the air conditioner is on in the back. Um, okay, here we go. Units 10 and 11 focus on the resume and cover letter. And before we begin, it's important that you consider your employer. Now, why is it important that you consider your employer? Because as the book points out, the skills that you have and what you can do don't matter. Your skills only matter insofar as they are desirable to your potential employer. So it's a good idea before you sit down and draft your resume and cover letter to even do a little research on this employer. What do you know about them? What do you know about if it's a company, for example, financially, has the company done well in the past year? Have they not done well? Have they experienced any major changes? Who is the CEO? Do you know anything about the CEO? If so, what do you know? So things like that can help you to go in a more specific direction with your targeted resume and cover letter, and select the details that are going to help you the most, because they are going to be most relevant in the eyes of your potential employer. So these two documents, the textbook says, are quite possibly the most important documents that you will write, certainly in the early stages of your career, and possibly also when we consider your life as a whole, because a strong cover letter can literally mean the difference between getting a job and not getting a job. And for most of us, getting a dream job is about a lot more than just paying the bills. So these are very important, and you definitely want to put a lot of thought into what you're writing and the information that you include. So the first thing the next thing that you want to consider, you definitely want to find out who you're sending these materials to. You don't want to address your cover letter to whom it may concern. It's best, even if you have to call to find out who is the hiring manager or who is in charge of human resources, it's best for you to have a specific person to send these materials to. If you just write something like "to whom it may concern" or "dear sir" or "madam," the chances that someone will read your cover letter, they decrease. So you want to try in all cases to find out the name of the person who you're sending this to. Let's see. So another thing that's very important to consider is that when your employer lists an ad for a particular position, they may get hundreds, even thousands of applicants, and that's a lot. So the question now becomes, how can you set yourself apart when there are so many resumes and cover letters coming in, and many of these applicants are going to be just as qualified as you? So it can seem like a daunting task, but one thing that you can do is be sure that you don't have any careless errors or grammatical errors, and here's why. One way that a hiring manager can very easily reduce the number of resumes or cover letters, or let's say there are three piles. There's the no pile, as in no, we're not calling this person. There's the maybe pile, as in maybe, and the yes pile, as in yes, this person is great. Let's definitely call this person. So one way that you can almost guarantee that your cover letter and resume will end up in the no pile is by writing something with careless errors and or spelling errors, because errors of that, careless errors, spelling errors, really obvious errors, and several of them, or even just one, are going to most likely lead the person who is going through these materials to conclude that either you're not a very good writer, or you don't care very much about this, and that you didn't care enough to do it right, and to take the time to proofread. And that most often will put you into the no pile. So to keep yourself from being cut that early on, it's a good idea to go back before you submit your cover letter and resume, and to go through them and make sure that there aren't any errors, careless errors, or grammatical errors. So, okay, so we have those are two things now that you can do to put yourself ahead. And again, that is direct these materials to the attention of a specific person, and be sure that you don't have any errors in spelling or grammar or formatting, because these are relatively minor errors that can result in you getting cut from the pool of applicants. So let's see, moving on, in terms of formatting, the cover letter is a business document, so it should be written in block business letter format. And then you want to be sure also that your font is 12 point, and in terms of the type, you typically could use Roman numeral. You want to use the serif format, and Times New Roman is one example of that. You also don't want your cover letter to be longer than a page. That is typically the rule in terms of length. So you don't want to exceed one page. You can, if let's say you were using a 12-point font and you are finding that you can't get everything into your cover letter, you can shift to a 10-point font, which is smaller, and that might be one way that you can get a little bit more information about yourself or information into the cover letter by going from a 12-point font to a 10-point. And let's see. Something else. It's very important that your cover letter is reader friendly. And how can you make it reader friendly? Well, another way you can do this is you want your sentences to be short, and the book uses the term punchy. So you want your sentences to be short and punchy, and you also want your paragraphs to be more on the short side. You don't want long rambling sentences and paragraphs. You want them to be short, concise, to the point, because those are all qualities that will make them more reader friendly. And is there anything else? Yes, so again, it's good to remember that the cover letter is not about you, it's about what you can do for the employer. So what you want to do some research on the employer, on the company, the organization, the CEO. Find out what the employer is looking for, and then determine how you can, what skills do you have that are most desirable, and present those skills, because it's not about you, it's about what you can do for the employer. Okay, so moving on, one way that you can show the employer that you have the skills that they are looking for, you want to, this is called in writing, show, don't tell, and it just means that rather than telling the the recipient that, you are the best person, you want to include detail that shows that you are the best person. So, for example, rather than saying, "Oh, I'm very loyal," if you can think of something that you did at some point, or something, an incident that demonstrates that you are very loyal, the theory is that that is more powerful, because the person will see for themselves that you're very loyal, and you're not just telling them, "I'm very loyal." You're describing something that happened, and it's leading them to conclude that, wow, this is a very loyal person. So something else you want to do, because the cover letter is ultimately a persuasive document. So to persuade, there is a technique that we're going to be using called the AIDA approach. So A stands for attention, I is interest, D is desire, and A is action. So attention, you want to begin by getting the reader's attention, and your first paragraph must do this. The second thing you want to do is you want to build the employer's interest in you, and it's said that you can build someone's interest in you through the inclusion of specific detail. Facts, figures, or even statistics about your skills. I personally am a fan of specific details, so that is what I would use. Then again, you can build someone's interest in you through the inclusion of specific detail, facts, figures, or statistics about your skills. I would go with specific detail. Specific detail, so rather you could say, "Oh, my students love me," or "My students think I'm a great professor," or you could go into greater detail and describe an incident that shows that your your students think you're a great professor. So that is what it means to be specific. So the next is desire. So how do you create desire in the employer? That is the desire to learn more about you and your skills. It is said that you can do this through creating an emotional experience. How do you create an emotional experience? You could, again, going back to telling a short story, not a short story, but an incident that creates an emotional connection with the reader. So maybe there's something you did that really shows the human side of you, or something that you think will elicit an emotional reaction from your audience. That is how you create desire. And then the last is action. So you want to push your prospective employer into the action of calling you or emailing you for a meeting. So how can you do this? It is recommended that in your closing paragraph, though yes, I know you've already put your phone number in here, and you've already your email is on the resume, and probably the cover letter also, but theoretically the best thing for you to do, and the best way for you to push the prospective employer into action, and that is, again, the action of calling you for an appointment, or for an appointment or interview. In your closing paragraph, you would just include a brief statement of when you are available, as well as your phone number. So you're going to make it as easy as possible. Remind the recipient that you're available and when, and then also give them your contact information. So let's see. So those are. That is what I wanted to say about the cover letter, and that is most of chapter 10 on the resume, on the cover letter, sorry. And moving on to chapter 11. So in chapter 11, there are three types of resumes that the book discusses, but we're going to focus on the reverse chronological resume. Okay, so again, the reverse chronological resume is the one that we are going to focus on. So that means when you create your resume, please format it as a reverse chronological resume. And what that means is that you put your most recent experience first. That's all, because it's the theory behind that is that your most recent experience is more relevant than experience you've had further back. So you want to put the most recent experience first, and in a reverse chronological essay, you would also put experience before education. Now, let's say you don't really have much experience and you're young, and you have a great education and you've been a great student. In that case, you probably are going to, you could choose to put your the education section before experience, but that's something that's going to be up to you. Let's see. So, and then also for the reverse chronological resume, there are a few things that you're not supposed to include. You don't want to include details about your high school experience unless it's very something very outstanding and very significant happened, or you accomplished something very significant and unusual. You also don't want to say whether you are a male or female. You don't want to state anything about your religious views or your religious life. And let's see. And I think that's it. I mean, there are other obvious things that might strike someone as inappropriate that you obviously don't want to do. But the most important steps for the reverse chronological resume, as I said, you start with the most recent experience, because it's the fact that it is more recent makes it more relevant, and then you move on down, and you don't reference your gender or your religion, and let's see, you also don't include details about your high school experience. So this is going to wrap up the lecture for Unit 2. I'm sorry that it wasn't posted at 3:30 exactly. Thank you for your patience, and happy Monday, and I look forward to reading your elevator pitches and also your posts in the discussion question for Unit 2. Bye.